People always think there will be another phone call, another weekend, another chance to say, I love you. I believe that too. Until one voicemail changed my life forever. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 40 years old. I work as an executive for a large technology company. Most people would say I had everything: a successful career, a beautiful house, a loving wife, a wonderful daughter. But there was one person I kept putting off: my mother. Mom lived alone in the small town where I grew up. Ever since Dad passed away, she never wanted to move. This house still feels like home. She always said, it still feels like your father is here. Every Sunday, she called me. Sometimes on Monday too. Sometimes Wednesday. Usually for no special reason. Hi, sweetheart. I was just thinking about you. I hope you're eating well. Those conversations rarely lasted more than 5 minutes, but somehow, even 5 minutes felt too long to me. I was always busy. Meetings, business trips, deadlines, emails that never stopped coming. Whenever Mom's name appeared on my phone, I'd look at the screen, smile for a second, then press, remind me later. I always told myself, I'll call her tonight. Tonight became tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. And somehow, weeks slipped away. One evening, my wife, Emily, noticed my phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. Your mom's calling, she said. I glanced at the screen. I know. Will you answer? I shook my head. I'm exhausted. I'll call her after dinner. Emily looked at me quietly. You've been saying that for days. Isaiah. I know. I'm just really busy. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. But before putting my phone back on the table, she whispered, one day, you'll wish she could still call. I laughed softly. Mom's healthy. We've got plenty of time. I had never been more wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, Mom called 9 more times. Sometimes she left voicemails. Sometimes she didn't. One afternoon, while waiting to board a flight, I listened to one of them. Hey, Daniel, I found your favorite cookie recipe today. I was thinking maybe you could come visit this weekend. She laughed softly. No pressure. I just miss you. Then she added, love you. I smiled, closed the voicemail, and promised myself, I'll book a trip next month. I never booked it. Late one Friday night, I finally had a free hour. I picked up my phone, scrolled to Mom's contact, and just as I was about to call, a message from work appeared. Urgent. Client meeting moved to Saturday morning. Without thinking, I put my phone back down. I'll call her tomorrow. That sentence would become the biggest regret of my life. The following Monday, I was standing in front of a conference room, preparing for the most important presentation of the year. My phone vibrated. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. Hello? A calm voice answered. Is this Daniel Carter? Yes. This is St. Mary's Hospital. My heart suddenly raced. We're calling about your mother. Everything around me went silent. Everything around me went silent. The woman on the phone spoke gently. Mr. Carter, your mother was brought to St. Mary's Hospital this morning. I felt my heart pounding. What happened? She suffered a severe stroke. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Is she okay? There was a pause. The doctors are doing everything they can. You should come as soon as possible. I didn't even tell my coworkers where I was going. I grabbed my car keys, ran out of the building, and started driving. Every traffic light felt endless. Every mile felt too slow. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about deadlines. I was thinking about every phone call. I never answered. As I drove, my phone connected to the car's Bluetooth. Mom's missed calls filled the screen. 5, 10, 15. I kept scrolling. 27 missed calls. 27 opportunities to hear her voice. 27 chances. I believed I could always take later. I finally arrived at the hospital. A nurse met me in the hallway. You must be Daniel. I nodded. How is she? She gave me a sympathetic smile. The doctor will explain everything. That wasn't the answer I wanted. The doctor entered a few moments later. He looked tired. I'm sorry. The stroke caused significant damage. She's breathing on her own, but she hasn't regained consciousness. I stared at him. So she'll wake up. right? He hesitated. We honestly don't know. There may be permanent brain damage. You should prepare yourself. Those words echoed in my mind. Prepare yourself. How do you prepare? To lose the person who gave you life? I slowly walked into Mom's hospital room. Machines beeped softly. The room smelled of disinfectant. She looked so small, so fragile. Nothing like the strong woman who had raised me alone after Dad died. I gently held her hand. It was warm, but there was no response. Mom, it's me. I came. Silence. The tears I had been holding back finally came. I'm sorry. I should have answered. I should have called. I should have visited. The words poured out of me, but they came far too late. Emily arrived an hour later. She quietly wrapped her arms around me. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing to say. She simply stood beside me, holding my hand, just as Mom had done every time I was afraid as a child. That evening, the nurse handed me a small plastic bag. We found these with your mother's belongings. Inside, her glasses, a handkerchief, her house keys, and her cell phone. I stared at it for a long time. The battery was nearly dead. The wallpaper was a picture of me, Emily, and our daughter Lily, taken 3 years earlier. I swallowed hard. Even after all this time, we were still the first thing she wanted to see every day. Curious, I unlocked the phone. The recent calls appeared immediately. My name, again, and again, and again. The last call had been made only 2 hours before the stroke. Then I noticed something else. A voicemail icon. Unheard. Duration. 0:47 seconds. My finger hovered over the screen. For some reason, I wasn't ready to press play. Deep inside, I knew that hearing my mother's voice one last time would change me forever. I stared at the voicemail notification. 0:47 seconds. Just 47 seconds. Less than a minute. Yet somehow, I knew those 47 seconds would stay with me for the rest of my life. I took a deep breath, then pressed play. For a moment, there was only silence. Then I heard her voice. Soft, gentle, exactly the way I remembered it. Hi, sweetheart. I know you're probably busy. She laughed quietly. I just wanted to hear your voice. There was another pause. If you can't call today, that's all right. I'll try again another time. Then, almost in a whisper, I love you. Take care of yourself. Bye, honey. The message ended. I didn't move. I simply stared at the phone. Then I pressed play again. And again. By the 5th time, I wasn't listening anymore. I was crying. That ordinary voicemail had become the most precious thing I owned. Emily quietly sat beside me. She didn't ask what Mom had said. She already knew. A mother's love doesn't need complicated words. Sometimes, it sounds like, have you eaten? Drive safely. Don't work too hard. Those simple questions were never about food, or traffic, or work. They were another way of saying, I love you. That night, I refused to leave the hospital. I pulled a chair beside Mom's bed, and talked for hours. I told her about work, about Lily's latest school project, about the vacation we'd been planning. I even apologized for every phone call I ignored. I thought we'd have more time. I whispered. I was wrong. A single tear rolled down my face and landed softly on her hand. Around midnight, the nurse walked in quietly. You should try to get some rest. I shook my head. I'll stay here. She smiled gently. My mother was the same. She never stopped worrying about me. Then she looked at Mom. They never really do. The next morning, I drove to Mom's house to pick up a few things. Her favorite sweater, a family photo, her reading glasses. The house looked exactly the same. Fresh flowers on the porch. The wind chime Dad had made years ago. Everything waiting, as if she were coming home that afternoon. Inside, the kitchen table was perfectly clean, except for one thing, an old calendar. Every day, Mom had written little notes. Most were simple. Water the flowers, boy milk, doctor at 2 p.m. Then I reached the current month, and my heart broke. Several dates had tiny handwritten notes. Daniel called today. A few days later, no call today. Then, Maybe tomorrow. Another page. Daniel sounded tired. Pray for him. Not angry. Not disappointed. She never complained. She prayed for me. Even on the days I forgot about her. As I gently closed the calendar, a folded piece of paper slipped onto the floor. It was tucked inside the back cover. Across the front, in Mom's familiar handwriting, were 4 simple words. For my dear son. I stared at the envelope. Somehow, I knew this wasn't just another letter. It was something she'd been waiting, her whole life, for me to read. I picked up the envelope carefully. Across the front, Mom had written, "For my dear son." The handwriting was unmistakable, neat, gentle, exactly the way she used to write birthday cards. I slowly unfolded the letter. "My dear Daniel, if you're reading this, then I probably forgot to give it to you. Or maybe I simply didn't want to make you cry. Either way, I hope you're smiling, because every time I thought about you, I smiled too." I had to stop reading. My vision blurred. Even in a letter she expected I might read after she was gone, she was still trying to protect my feelings. That was Mom, always thinking about everyone else first. I continued, "I know you've been very busy. Please don't ever apologize for working hard. Your father and I always dreamed that you would have opportunities we never had. Seeing you succeed has been one of the greatest joys of my life." A lump formed in my throat. She knew, she always knew, why I missed her calls, yet she never complained. The next paragraph was underlined. "But promise me one thing, don't become so busy that you forget to enjoy the life you're working so hard to build. Money can replace many things. Time cannot." I closed my eyes. Those words felt painfully true. I had spent years chasing promotions, while quietly losing moments I could never get back. Then I reached the final page. The words became even more personal. "You always worried about taking care of me someday. Please don't. You already gave me everything I ever wanted. Watching you become a kind husband, a loving father, a good man, that was enough." The tears streamed down my face. Enough? I had barely visited, barely called. How could she possibly think I had done enough? Then came the sentence. That completely broke me. Every missed phone call hurt for a moment, but loving you never hurt for even a second. I lowered the letter, unable to breathe. A mother's heart really does love without keeping score. That evening, I sat alone in Mom's living room. The house was silent. I looked around. Every corner held a memory. The old rocking chair where she used to knit, the kitchen where she made my favorite soup, the hallway where she'd wait whenever I came home from school. For years, I thought those memories would always be there. Now, they felt priceless. Before leaving, I walked into Mom's bedroom one last time. On the nightstand, beside her Bible, was a small notebook. Curious, I opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a prayer journal. Every page contained someone's name. Neighbors, friends, family members. Then I found my own name, written hundreds of times. Beside almost every entry, Mom had written the same prayer. "Please keep my son safe." Not, "Help him earn more money." Not, "Make him successful." Just, "Keep him safe." I couldn't stop crying, because I finally realized, while I had been too busy to answer her calls, she had never been too busy to pray for me. And tucked inside the final page of that notebook was a photograph that revealed the one promise my mother had quietly kept. For more than 30 years, I picked up the photograph. It was faded around the edges. The colors had almost disappeared. Mom looked so young. She couldn't have been older than 25. She was sitting on a park bench, holding a little boy in her arms. Me. On the back of the photo, she had written one sentence. "I made him a promise today." I frowned. What promise? Inside the notebook, a folded page slipped onto the floor. It was dated, Mai 12, 1995, the day Dad's funeral was held. I unfolded it carefully. Today, Daniel asked me something I'll never forget. "Mom, are you going to leave me too?" I hugged him as tightly as I could. Then I made him a promise. "As long as I'm alive, you'll never face life alone." The words blurred through my tears. I barely remembered that day. I was only 9 years old. But Mom remembered every word. She continued writing, "I don't know what our future will look like. Money will be tight. I'll probably have to work 2 jobs. I'll miss school plays. I'll come home exhausted. But one thing will never change. Every night, before Daniel goes to sleep, he will know someone loves him." I lowered the page. Suddenly, so many childhood memories returned. Mom working late at the diner, then cleaning offices after midnight, still waking up early to make my breakfast. I used to wonder when she ever slept. Now, I realized she probably didn't. Another page, another memory. August doa mi doi. Daniel starts college tomorrow. He keeps thanking me. If only he knew. He's the reason I never gave up. Children think parents raise them. Sometimes, children save their parents too. I smiled through tears. Mom had spent years believing I had given her strength, while I spent years believing I had never done enough. Then, I found something unexpected. An envelope taped inside the back cover. Across the front, she had written, "Open on the day you become too busy." I laughed sadly. I guess that day came a long time ago. Inside was a single handwritten page. "Dear Daniel, if you're reading this, life has probably become very busy. That's okay. Life is supposed to move forward. Just don't run so fast that the people who love you can't keep up. One day, your daughter will call you. Please answer, even if you're busy, because one day, she'll remember whether you picked up." I covered my face. Mom wasn't writing about herself anymore. She was thinking about my future, about Emma, about the father I was becoming. Even now, she was still teaching me. That evening, when I arrived home, Emma came running toward me. "Daddy, can you help me build my science project?" Normally, I would have smiled and said, "After I finish a few emails." Instead, I knelt beside her. "Absolutely." We spent the next 3 hours together, building, laughing, making mistakes. Emily watched from the kitchen. "You haven't looked at your phone once," she said softly. I smiled. It can wait. For the first time in years, I finally understood. Nothing important had ever been waiting inside my phone. Everything important had been waiting for me at home, but I still had one more discovery to make. Hidden inside my mother's old jewelry box was a secret she had protected for more than 40 years, and it would completely change the way I remembered both of my parents. I carried the old jewelry box to the kitchen table. It wasn't expensive, just a small wooden box, its corners worn smooth by time. Mom had owned it for as long as I could remember. As a child, she always smiled and said, "Some treasures aren't made of gold." Back then, I never understood what she meant. Inside, there were no diamonds, no expensive necklaces, only simple things. Dad's wedding ring, a tiny silver bracelet, several faded birthday cards I had made in elementary school, a lock of my baby hair tied with a blue ribbon. Every item had been carefully preserved, not because it was valuable, because it reminded her of someone she loved. At the bottom of the box, I noticed a false wooden panel. Carefully lifting it, I discovered another envelope. Across the front, Mom had written, "For the day you finally understand your father." I frowned. My father had passed away over 30 years ago. What could she possibly tell me now? I slowly unfolded the letter. "Dear Daniel, there is something I've never told you. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because your father asked me not to. He wanted you to remember him as strong, not as someone who struggled." My heart began beating faster. I kept reading. "When your father became sick, he knew he wouldn't have much time. One evening, he sat beside me after you had gone to bed. He held my hand and asked me to promise him something. He said, 'No matter how hard life becomes, never let Daniel feel guilty for following his dreams. If he has to choose between visiting me and building his future, tell him to build his future.'" I stopped reading. Dad had said that? All these years, I believed I hadn't done enough. Now I learned. My parents had spent their final years trying to protect me from exactly that feeling. The letter continued. "Your father loved you more than life itself. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was only afraid that you might stop living because of him. So we made a promise together. We would always encourage you to move forward, never backward. even if it meant missing us sometimes. The tears wouldn't stop. For decades, I had carried guilt, yet my parents had carried only love. Then I reached the last paragraph. If there's one thing I hope you learn, it's this. Love is not measured by how much money you earn or how many gifts you buy. Love is measured by the moments you choose to be present. Don't wait until someone is gone to realize they only wanted your time. I quietly folded the letter, then looked around the empty house. For years, I thought this house represented loss. Now, I realized it represented love. Every wall, every chair, every photograph, every sacrifice. My parents had built this home, not with money, but with devotion. That evening, I drove to the cemetery. For the first time in years, I stood beside both of my parents. I finally understand. I whispered, "I'm sorry it took me so long." A gentle breeze moved through the trees, and somehow, for the first time since Mom's stroke, I felt a sense of peace. As I turned to leave, my phone rang. It was Lily, my daughter. For a split second, old habits almost returned. I nearly pressed, "Call you later." Instead, I smiled, answered immediately, because thanks to my parents, I already knew some phone calls are far too precious to miss. And what Lily said next would prove that breaking one old habit could change generations to come. My phone was still ringing. Lily, my 12-year-old daughter. For years, I had trained myself to think, "I'll call back in a minute." This time, I answered before the second ring. "Hi, sweetheart." Her cheerful voice filled the car. "Daddy, I was hoping you'd answer." I smiled. "I'll always answer." There was a brief silence. Then she laughed. "Really? Really?" She sounded excited. "I got an A on my science project." My heart skipped. "The one we built together?" "Yep." My teacher said it was the best in the class. I couldn't stop smiling. "I'm so proud of you." Then she said something that made me pull the car over. "I'm glad you helped me. If you had been working, I don't think it would have turned out this good." Those simple words hit me harder than any business award I'd ever received. My daughter didn't remember the expensive birthday gifts or the vacations. She remembered that I was there. That evening, when I got home, Lily met me at the front door. She wrapped her arms around me. "Daddy, can we start eating dinner together every night?" I looked at Emily. She smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea." So we did. No television, no phones, no laptops. Every evening at 6:30, we sat around the same table. At first, the conversations were awkward. Then, they became the best part of the day. A few weeks later, I noticed something different. Lily talked more. Emily laughed more. Even I smiled more. One night, Lily suddenly asked, "Daddy, what was Grandma like?" I paused. Then I reached into the cabinet, pulled out Mom's old photo album. For the next 2 hours, we looked through every picture together. I told Lily about Grandma's cooking, her laugh, the way she called every Sunday, the way she never forgot a birthday. When I finished, Lily quietly said, "I wish I could have known her better." I nodded. "So do I." The next Sunday morning, Lily walked into the kitchen holding my phone. "Daddy, can we call Grandpa?" I smiled sadly. "Grandpa passed away before you were born." She looked down. "Oh." A few seconds later, she looked back up. "Then let's call someone else." "Who?" She grinned. "Aunt Sarah. I bet she'd be happy." We called. She answered immediately. She laughed when she heard Lily's voice. That 10-minute conversation turned into nearly an hour. When we hung up, I realized something. One phone call can completely change someone's day, maybe even their life. Months passed. The habit continued. Every evening, one phone call, sometimes to my brother, sometimes to an old friend, sometimes to a lonely neighbor, sometimes just to ask, "How are you?" It amazed me how many people said the same thing. "I'm so glad you called." One rainy afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. It was from one of Mom's neighbors. She wrote, "Your mother talked about you every single day. Every evening she'd sit on the front porch with her phone beside her. She always smiled and said, "Daniel will call when he gets a chance." He always does. I lowered the letter. She never stopped believing in me, even when I stopped believing. I had enough time. That night, I walked onto my own front porch, phone in my hand, watching the sunset, just like Mom used to do. And for the first time, instead of feeling guilty, I felt grateful. Because even though I couldn't answer her calls anymore, I could still honor her by never making the same mistake again. Little did I know, 1 year later, a single voicemail from my own daughter would prove that my mother's greatest lesson had finally become our family's legacy. 1 year passed. Life looked different now. Every evening at 6:30, our family gathered around the dinner table. Every Sunday, we called someone we loved. Sometimes my brother, sometimes Emily's parents, sometimes an old friend we hadn't spoken to in years. It became our family tradition, all because of one voicemail. One afternoon, I was flying home from a business conference. For the first time in months, my phone had to stay on airplane mode. When we landed, it buzzed nonstop. Emails, message, missed calls. Then I noticed one notification. Voicemail from Lily. My heart smiled. I pressed play immediately. "Daddy, I know you're on the airplane. I just wanted to tell you, I made the soccer team. I couldn't wait until you got home. I love you. See you tonight." The message lasted only 22 seconds, yet I listened to it 3 times. Then I laughed, because this time, there was no regret, no guilt, only joy. I couldn't wait to hug her. When I walked through the front door, Lily ran toward me. "You made it," she shouted. "I know." I smiled. "I heard your voicemail." She hugged me tightly. "I'm glad you listened." Those 4 words stayed with me. I'm glad you listened. That night, after dinner, I opened the drawer where I kept Mom's old cell phone. The battery no longer worked, but I couldn't throw it away. It still held her final voicemail, the message that had changed everything. Lily picked it up carefully. "Is this Grandma's phone?" "Yes." "Can I hear her voice?" For a moment, I hesitated. Then I nodded. Together, we listened. Once again, Mom softly said, "I just wanted to hear your voice." When the recording ended, Lily quietly wiped away a tear. I wish I could have talked to her. I smiled sadly. "I think, in a way, you just did." The next weekend, Lily surprised me. She placed a small wooden box on the kitchen table. "What's this?" I asked. She grinned. "Our family voicemail box." Inside were little folded pieces of paper. She explained, "Whenever someone in our family says something kind, we write it down, so we'll never forget." Emily smiled. "That's beautiful." Lily looked at me. "I don't want us to lose our words. The way you almost lost Grandma's." My eyes filled with tears. At only 12 years old, she understood something many adults never do. Words matter. Time matters. Love should never be postponed. That evening, I wrote the very first note. "Mom, thank you for never giving up on me. Your voicemail saved my family." I folded the paper, placed it inside the box, then closed the lid. It wasn't just a memory anymore. It had become a legacy. A few months later, while cleaning Mom's old house one final time, I discovered something hidden behind the bookshelf. A dusty cassette recorder. Beside it, a stack of labeled tapes. One label immediately caught my attention. It read, "For the days my family misses my voice." My hands began to shake. I realized my mother's final voicemail wasn't the last message she had left behind, and what I heard on those old tapes would become the greatest gift she could ever leave her family. I carefully carried the cassette recorder home. It was old. Dust covered every corner. The buttons were faded from years of use. For a moment, I wondered if it would even work. Lily stood beside me. "Daddy, can we listen together?" I smiled. I think Grandma would have wanted that. The first tape clicked softly. Then, a familiar voice filled the room. "Testing, testing." Mom laughed. "I've never liked these machines." Emily smiled. "She sounds exactly the same." I closed my eyes. For a moment, it felt as if she had walked back into the room. The tapes weren't dramatic. They weren't sad. They were simply, "Mom." One recording contained her favorite soup recipe. Another explained how Grandpa had proposed to her. One tape was nothing but her laughing after burning a pie. We laughed with her, and somehow, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Then we reached the final cassette. The label simply read, "For my family." The room became completely silent. I pressed play. My dear family, if you're listening to this, it means I'm no longer sitting beside you, but don't be sad for too long. I've had a beautiful life. I've loved deeply, and I was loved in return. I felt tears rolling down my face. Mom continued, "Daniel, if you're listening, I know you've probably blamed yourself. So let me say this one last time. You are forgiven. You were forgiven long before you ever asked." I buried my face in my hands. All this time, the person I couldn't forgive was myself. Yet Mom had never stopped forgiving me. Then her voice became brighter. "Lily, if you're old enough to hear this, I hope you've inherited your father's smile and your mother's kindness. Take good care of them. They'll never stop loving you." Emily reached for my hand. Neither of us could speak. The recording continued. "I have one final wish. Please, don't let this family become too busy to sit around the same table, talk, laugh, call each other, forgive quickly, and never let a phone ring when your heart is telling you to answer." There was a long pause. Then Mom softly whispered, "I love you all." The tape clicked and stopped. No one moved. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Finally, I smiled, not because I no longer missed Mom, but because I realized she had never really left us. She was still present. Every time we answered a phone call, every family dinner, every hug, every act of kindness, every "I love you." That evening, we placed Mom's cassette recorder beside her old cell phone, next to the wooden voicemail box Lily had made. 3 generations, connected by simple words. Words we would never allow ourselves to forget. Every Sunday night, our family now has one tradition. Before dinner, everyone puts their phone on the table, not to scroll, not to text, but to call one person they love. Sometimes the conversation lasts 2 minutes, sometimes 20. It doesn't matter. What matters is that no one has to wonder why the phone never rang. If your mother or your father can still hear your voice, call them today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because one ordinary phone call may become the memory you treasure for the rest of your life.